Good morning. The 87th segment of Think Before You Speak series, the laws of Shemirat Halashon with clarity, with a few stories. Leilui Nishmat, the great Chafetz Chaim Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. Leilui Nishmat Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. Leilui Nishmat Reb Zechariah Wallerstein Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. And Leilui Nishmat Luz Aliza Bat Henriette and her children that passed with her in the fire. Ruach Hashem Tenichena Megan Eden. These halachot should be a great zichut for the shefa and the atzlacha and the ashirut of our guys that sit and learn in the Balabatim Kolel in the morning, 9 to 11:30 every day. And these halachot should be specifically sponsored and dedicated for the atzlacha and the Shemirat El Yonah of Chaim Davido ben Chayesah. Today's halachot, the title is The Contest. Now I want you to picture this. A lot of times in yeshiva, in order to really move the boys to give a little bit more time or effort into their learning, the rabbis might create a contest. And that competition would sometimes bring out a bigger drive for learning. For instance, in this particular yeshiva, the Rebbe's decided to make a contest where on the piece of Gemara, the page of Gemara that they were learning that day, the Rebbe announced anyone that writes the most creative and compelling question and answer on this Gemara will get a wonderful prize. And when everyone heard that, they were pushed to jump into this contest, and they spent hours analyzing that page of Gemara, looking for the most creative question or answer or chidush that is found on that page. And for hours they wrote, and they handed in the papers by lunch. By lunch, one boy walks up to Reuven and says to him, "Hey, your father is one of the Rebbes in the yeshiva. Can you go into his office and kind of talk to him a little bit and find out how they graded some of the papers from the guys in our class? Particularly my paper, can you find out if they thought it was something special or maybe they rejected it? Can you give me a little inside information?" The halacha is that you're not allowed to give inside information to something that you're privy or you know in the way of a secret or a contest. That is a type of Lashon Hara. But even more so, Reuven looks back at the boy and says, my dad, my father, would never tell me something that is private or secret to the boys of the yeshiva. He would never divulge that information. The truth of the matter is, the halacha says that even if Reuven would go into his father's office and see the papers on his desk already graded from the contest of that day, and he sees that this particular boy's paper was rejected, he's not allowed to go and tell that boy that the rabbis rejected his paper and found it written not as creative or well as maybe the other papers. And if he would go and tell this boy that he saw his paper on the desk and he saw it was rejected by the rabbis, he's over on a serious type of rechilut. Rechilut is when you tell one Jew about what another Jew said or did against him, and it causes bad feeling. Over here it's even worse because you're telling him about Talmidei Chachamim. Rechilut against Talmidei Chachamim, the punishment is even more severe. You have to be very careful when you talk to people about what rabbis said or did, specifically when it has to do with them. So if he would have told him, hey, I saw your paper on the rabbi's desk and it said that it was rejected because it wasn't creative enough, that would be speaking rechilut against the rabbis and this student on the paper that he handed in for the contest. That's a much more severe rechilut, and he would never be allowed to say that. So here is the halacha. Rechilut itself is already bad enough. You can never tell another Jew what someone else said about them or did against them. That would cause bad feelings against them. But even more so when it comes to Talmidei Chachamim, the punishment of speaking rechilut against Talmidei Chachamim is much, much more severe. It's hard enough for Rebbes to reach the heart of the boys and try to stimulate them through contests and making things creative to really get them into learning. The last thing you would want to do is to throw a monkey wrench in that very special relationship. Thank you for listening.